looking forward to being able to see you all in person eventually. But in the meantime, we have a special presentation that the city is going to provide us with the Northern Avenue Bridge. That's the main event for this evening. We appreciate your being here. And we are recording this so that we can share it with people who might not be able to be here at the same time. I would also say to anyone that if we would like to ask questions, you can hit that little chat button down in the lower part of your screen. It says chat, and you can ask a question, and I will make sure that those get to our presenters so that we can get all your questions answered. Before we move into the main part of our presentation, I would like to, if I can figure out how to do that, to unmute Suzanne, because she would like to share a little thought for us. Let's see. Suzanne, says you're, hang on. There you go. Suzanne, are you? Yes, there you are. You're there.
Can you hold on, or can you go on with the meeting? I'm trying to get somebody in.
Okay. All right. So apparently, Chris, would you like to introduce? We're going to when she's done, we're going to bring her back. But please tell us a little bit about what's going on.
Absolutely, Mark. I appreciate that, and really, we very much appreciate the opportunity of being the lead-off item on the first ever Zoom community meeting, if I understand it correctly, for the Wharf District. And really, on behalf of the mayor, just want to thank you for giving us some time to be able to connect, not only on this project, but in general, particularly during this time. Suzanne, Mark, as you referenced, has been a fantastic representative of the Wharf District on what's called the Mayor's Advisory Task Force, the task force the mayor charged with giving us some design direction about the future of the Northern Avenue Bridge. I think we are joined by at least one other member of the Mayor's Advisory Task Force on this call, and that's Sarah McCammon from the Fort Point Neighborhood Association across the Fort Point Channel, whom we had the pleasure of meeting with her and her association earlier this week. That Mayor's Advisory Task Force, as you know from some of the previous conversations we've had together, was really charged with setting a design direction for our next investment in this wonderful bridge. And really sort of around four principal points. Thinking about how we honor history with that bridge, knowing that it is sort of an icon of an era, an icon of our city. Thinking about how we improve mobility, really connecting your neighborhood with the Fort Point neighborhood, how we connect downtown with the South Boston waterfront, how we connect people to the water. Thinking about how we actually improve resiliency within the channel, ensuring that that transportation connection endures as we think about the climate changes ahead of us. And think about how we create a destination that is complementary to all of the assets that exist already within the Fort Point area, the Wharf District area, et cetera. The Mayor's Advisory Task Force met essentially over the previous 2 years and had a lot of really fantastic and really sort of in-depth feedback for the city, which resulted in a set of design directions that we presented at the culminating meeting this past December. And we've been able to refine and focus in on one of those design directions in particular that we think best meets the design brief which was laid out around history, around resiliency, around mobility and placemaking. And with great credit, again, to the task force, but also to some members of the city team that are here, Parjai Singh, our lead city engineer, Ben Sun, our lead bridge engineer, and Joe Floria, who's going to be doing a bulk of the presentation tonight, who will walk you through sort of that design. And really our intent here is just to solicit some additional feedback, thoughts, ideas, questions from you to ensure that this bridge, that this investment that the mayor is making in this neighborhood really is sort of reflecting and responding to your interests. So I will turn it over to Para, who will give some additional context, and then turn it over to Joe, who will sort of walk us through the current design. And I will be here for a bit to be able to take some questions. I may need to drop off early, but I'm always accessible to the Wharf District, whether it's for a future meeting, calls, emails, et cetera, or an in-person meeting down the line. And with that, I'll turn it over to Para.
Perfect, Chris. Thank you very much. It's one moment. Let me just find out.
Okay.
Suzanne, are you available to be on now or no?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Para, go right ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Again, everyone, I don't think you folks, I think you all know what great leadership you have in Susan Lavoie. She has been a tower of strength. And before the chief maybe peeled away, chief, if you could ever so slightly convey one of the things that may be most important or burning to the hearts of those in the Wharf District Council, that might be the actual use of the bridge on day one. That decision was made by the administration back in December, but I don't think, Chief, we got a chance to tell the whole world. So if you could say a few words on that, Chief. Mark, if you could get the back to the Chief. It's a chiefly statement.
Perfect. So thanks so much, Par. I apologize. Thank you, Mark. So to Par's point, just to lay out some of the general parameters which were determined, again, in those categories of history, resiliency, mobility, and placemaking. On the resiliency side, what we saw was that because we're already seeing the Fort Point Channel rise during particular storm surges to the bottom of the existing bridge, that we would need to raise the bridge. Because it's raised, it would be fixed. As part of that, though, and as we're thinking about the bridge that we want spanning these two neighborhoods, connecting these two neighborhoods, we wanted to find the right way to sort of honor the profile and honor sort of that industrial beauty that the current bridge has and represents for many. And Par will show sort of what that looks like. A lot of the conversation in the Mayor's Advisory Task Force was around mobility. There was a lot of conversation about who and how should this bridge be used. It was very clear from the Wharf District, from Suzanne, from the task force in general, that first and foremost, this needs to be about providing a great pedestrian connection between these two neighborhoods, that it really has to be for people first. There was obviously some extensive conversation about whether general traffic would be allowed on the bridge. The bridge is going to be designed to carry not general traffic. It is being designed for emergency vehicles and transit and pedestrians and cyclists. Again, that sort of first and foremost use was sort of that pedestrian and cyclist connection between these two neighborhoods. But providing for the opportunity for there to be emergency vehicle access connected across this bridge and transit. And I realize that there are probably some on the Wharf District who might have preferred general traffic, some on the Wharf District who would not have preferred transit and for it to just be for pedestrians and cyclists. Part of the interest around allowing that transit option was to ensure that as we experience growth in our city, that we're shifting more people to shared forms of transit. And that if we can get more people on shared forms of transit, that's going to mean less congestion in our streets and less emissions in our air. And so we wanted to provide for a transit component on this bridge, but the bridge will not be open up to general traffic. Par, does that cover what you wanted me to?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chief.
Yep.
Because everyone will believe when they hear those words from you. Thank you. That being said, I am blessed to have both Ben Sun, who is our Chief Bridge Engineer, and Joe Fleury, who is the Principal Bridge Engineer with us. We are going to walk you through a quick PowerPoint presentation that may have touched on some of the stuff Chief Osgood have said. So, and then we will show a video. And the video is just a manifestation of one of the options we showed the task force back in December. And I think we got some very favorable press in the Boston Globe. So without any further ado, I'm going to transfer this wonderful presentation again back to Mark so that Mark can send it to Joe. And Mark, is Susan available right now, or is Susan still in a...
Suzanne, are you good? No,
I think she needs to unmute
Sorry.
herself.
Sorry, you're having a problem? Yeah, sounds like she's having difficulties.
Okay.
All right.
Anyhow, openly, again, so much thanks for Ms. Lavoie. We can't do this without her strength. So publicly acknowledging what a great partner she is with us.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
To Joseph.
Joe, I think you can
Yep.
unmute, and you're going to
Yep.
share your
Yeah.
screen, right?
Yep. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Suzanne, if you can hear us, everybody at the council, and I'll jump into the presentation here now. Everybody can see the PowerPoint?
Yes, indeed.
Awesome. All right, we're gonna talk about the new Northern Avenue Bridge. Here's a picture of the old bridge. I think, as everybody here is aware, it connects Seaport, Four Point area to downtown in the Wharf district. It's an older railroad style bridge, Pratt trusses, movable bridge to open up for the maritime traffic that the Four Point Channel used to see. So, as you may be aware, we convened a task force back in 2018, and we landed on these four principal guidelines for the design. Honoring history, we want to keep the bridge profile, reflect the historic profile of the bridge. The truss where, it opens up and it gets a little bit taller over the swing span, and the style reinforce the history of the bridge. Of the utmost importance was mobility. So as the chief announced, we're going to limit it to pedestrians, cyclists, transit, and emergency vehicles, but focusing mostly on the pedestrians and cyclists. But it is such that it can evolve over time. This bridge is going to be, with any luck, part of the city for the next 100 or so years. We have no idea what the needs of the city will be throughout that time. So we want to design a bridge that can, be used for a variety of uses over its lifetime. As you can see with the old Northern Avenue Bridge, it had train traffic on it at one point, and then, ended as a pedestrian-only bridge for the last few years of its life. Increased resiliency. We want to raise this bridge to get it up above the anticipated sea level rise. It's a concern throughout the city, and we want to be ahead of that. Create a destination. So we want to create a complementary space, it's focused on the water. As you'll see when we show the video and some stills, that's the most important thing that we're looking for, and creating a people-first experience. So like I said, we want to focus on the pedestrians and people, giving them a gathering place. Here's the current bridge. I hope you can see the picture well. Looks like Swiss cheese. As Parr likes to say, he's put his body through some of these holes. I'd love to get a picture of that up here at some point. But bridge is closed to all traffic. It's considered structurally unsound, and the Coast Guard has even notified us that they consider it a hazard to navigation, as they're concerned that it might fall into the channel. So we went into this whole process thinking that we might be able to perform a rehabilitation. That's where we, keep the bridge in basically its same form and function. We just, fix the broken pieces that are there. We've done something similar, just two bridges up on Congress Street. That's originally built in 1930. We rehabbed it in 08. And we even won an award from the Boston Preservation Alliance. Now, 12 years later, we're starting to see some more signs of deterioration. So, we've gotten 12 years out of this. In another 15 or so, or more or less, we might need to do another preservation project. So this type of work can buy a little bit of time, but it's an ongoing maintenance issue, especially with these truss type elements. You can see in the picture on the right, with the lattice work, it's really intricate, and it's really hard to protect that steel from the salt water that we have in this environment. As you may know, steel corrodes in salt and water, and we get a double dose of that here, being over the ocean and with treating the snow that we do for our roads. So this is kind of a, what we used throughout the design, go old or go bold. So as I kind of described, we have some reasons why it's going to be difficult to go old. So we will go bold. Here's a still of the new bridge that we showed back at the Mayor's Advisory Task Force meeting in December. So, and it'll show a little bit better when I have the video going. But there's two bridges. I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but there's two, we call them ribbons, going on the outside of this decorative truss that goes above. And then in between the two ribbons on the outside goes down to what we're calling the promenade, which is, as I said earlier, you know, focusing on the water, allowing people to get down and experience the water as part of this bridge. I hope this video works. Excellent. All right. So this should be about 3 minutes, and hopefully there's sound. Power, you want to give me a thumbs up if you hear some sound? Awesome. There's our new bridge. So I've got a couple stills here that show the promenade space that we're talking about. So this is coming from the seaport going into the Wharf District downtown area. What we have here is a staircase kind of a grand seating area, gathering place. We were not able to maintain a ramp on both sides, like you see opposite, as we need to clear the navigation channel, so boats can continue to get through. I will mention, so here it is from the other end. We have, we showed these pictures and this video in December. We've been working real hard and cranking out the design, and this has changed slightly such that we're able to get a type of pushback ramp in, so it's accessible on both sides while still maintaining that nice seating area overlooking the center of the promenade. Here's another view looking out into the harbor. It's going to be one of the best views in the city, or at least that's my opinion. So what's next? So we're cranking out the plans now. We have 25% design, and we're hoping we will have a meeting next Wednesday, May 6th, where we're going to unveil the new bridge, show all the design progress that we've had. So I want to caution everybody that, what you saw today, it might be a slightly different come the 6th. We feel like it's gone in a better direction. It's come together a little bit, and we're excited to show that. As you can see here, we have a very aggressive timeline, hoping to have 100% design by the end of this year, with construction coming in early 2021, with the idea that in 2022 we can have ribbon cutting on the bridge and celebrate the summer on the water.
Cool.
That's all I got. We're happy to take any questions.
Great.
PJ, Ben,
We're getting
want to add anything?
Sorry. One of you like to add something else to that, or should we go into questions?
Mark, this is PJ.
Yeah.
And I've been monitoring the questions that have been asked.
Great.
At least the ones that has been on the chat session.
Good. So you can see those. That's terrific.
Yes. So if I may take a head start before I get to the chat sessions. Let me make sure. Okay. So where was my train of thought? First of all, again, thank you for all who has participated and given us guidance to bring it to this stage. Now, what you are seeing here, since December, we have taken further steps to refine this, to make this even better on multiple aspects. That includes connections from this structure to the harbor walk on both sides. So that's one. Two, more defined space on these two ribbons and the ribbons which I'm showing. And Joe, if you could move your—
Can you see my mouse?
Yeah, okay, so on either side of that little hole in the middle of the bridge, there are two ribbons, meaning two bridges on either side. The side of the bridge that is on the harbor, the ocean side, that will always exclusively be for pedestrians, okay? So someone might ask, so where are the buses going to be? Buses are going to be on the other ribbon, the ribbon that is towards the Bokeh Bridge. And the traffic is going to flow only in one direction from the seaport side towards Atlantic Avenue, okay? So that's one question. Another question was asked.
What are we anticipating as the hours of operation on that?
The buses will be 24/7. I mean, it's a bus lane, a transit lane, and whenever transit buses or shuttle buses go, it will be flowing in that direction. I'm sorry, there's a thought pattern which I want to add here. So I said we are continuing to improve this, what you are seeing here. So please do come. This is my sales pitch to come for the May 6th, which is next week, Wednesday, meeting, where you will see even a Boston bolder design, if I can be bold enough to say that. That's twice I used the word bold. Including this truss section, which you are seeing on the top, we have had such close guidance given by the Boston Preservation Alliance through the leadership of Greg Taylor and his board members. They have continued to give us guidance and challenged us to make this even look better, so it doesn't look like something that has been just plopped on the top of this bridge, be more. And I think where things are today is far better than what you see over here. So again, another pitch, please come on the 6th to see how things have improved, including the access to the promenade space. Right now, we have a ramp coming from the Wharf District Council side and a set of steps coming from the Fort Point Neighborhood Association side of the Seaboard side. And I think even that we have modified it ever so slightly, actually in an interesting way, so that someone in a wheelchair can access the promenade from both sides. Now, getting back to 2 questions. One was, is that promenade space going to get flooded or get wet? So the height, if I'm standing on that promenade, my feet, the height of where my feet are is above the 2070 sea level rising climate resiliency heights, okay? So the only way, I shouldn't say only way, the most likely way your feet are going to get wet is if it rains, or if you are dangling your feet over the water, over the edges, and if the water has come up. So that's one. Another question was, what happens to the Hook's Lobster site? We have had communications with Hook's Lobster. They understand that the bridge is going to be raised. We have advised them that when their project moves forward, they need to be sensitive to matching grades, meaning, the front door grades needs to match the profile of this bridge. So that conversations we established with Hook's Lobster about 2 years ago, and that's where things are. So that's as much as the chat session. So let me take another peek.
Yeah, there was a question about whether or not there's a planned traffic light on Atlantic Ave.
Good, excellent question. So at the Atlantic Avenue location, we did a study. It's a very technical study called a warrant analysis, meaning that's a technical term to see whether a traffic signal is needed. The current number crunching is saying that one is not needed. However, that being said, when a new traffic signal needs to go in, the most disruptive aspect is when you have to dig the ground and put in the wires and the conduits and all of that stuff. So whether the above ground hardware is needed or not on day one, and right now the thinking is it is not needed, we will still put all the underground infrastructure and keep it in place so that if there is a higher pedestrian safety risk between the pedestrians you are walking along Atlantic Avenue and the shuttle bus that is coming over the bridge, if there is a concern about that safety, the Boston Transportation Department can more easily install a new traffic signal because all the underground stuff is put. The very non-technical term which we use is we say we wrap the intersection underground, so it is all the infrastructure is put in place. Bless you, Mark. Okay, so let me just...
There's another question I noticed about wanting a ferry dock on the harbor side of the bridge.
Yes.
If you could address that, please.
Absolutely. There has been a lot of interest, dialogue, questions as to whether the promenade can be used as a stepping stone or access point to ferry services, water shuttles, paddle boats, Navy, yes to all. So it is, we are still working towards how to get passengers off the promenade down a gangplank, like a floating down to that sea level area. So we are absolutely looking into all those options, including if there are opportunities for boats to dock against the promenade. So these are still little details which we are looking at. The footprint which you see on the promenade is kind of small because it's about 100 feet by about 80 feet. The city does enjoy a larger footprint in terms of the land which we own. If we build it to full scale, that's another $25 million that we don't have. And we were hoping to see if there might be interest in the private, in other areas. equity markets or private sectors, but this little virus situation has done a little number. I don't think people are going to be very receptive if I go begging my hat collection these days. They might tell me to go pound sand. So I'm still looking for benefactors who might be, I'm never shy to take money from others. So I don't know whether I can say those things in an open meeting like this, but we can benefit from any help. The mayor has shown amazing leadership in being up front, out front, supporting this project and allocating the resources that we feel currently are needed. And that's amazing leadership by our mayor. So
Great. There are a number of other questions here. I think you can see them, Para, if you don't mind.
Okay, let me, yeah. Okay, hold on. So let me.
Width and funding and things like that.
Okay, so let me just go to the top so I can just systematically go down the list. Okay, yeah, should we, that's, yes, you can record this. Hello, all this is certainly one of the best attended. Okay, okay, that's, can there be, yes, so we discussed the Hooks property. We discussed the flooding thing. Can you show us where the emergency, yes, so the emergency transit vehicles will be on the ribbon that is on the Hooks, on the, come on, PJ, speak.
Hopefully side.
On the Moakley side, okay. Will Hooks Lobster allow their pilings to be removed? Okay, so that's a conversation that is outside this project. I'm fairly certain that conversation, sorry, for the benefit of all the question, I should do this correctly. The question was, will Hooks Lobster allow their piling to be removed and the area beautiful? Well, the Hooks Lobster piling is part of their project and it will be highly inappropriate for me to speak about that. Will future renderings incorporate the proposed James Hooks development? Not quite, because the James Hook development project is, it's an evolving thing, and creating these renderings are quite costly. And right now we are focusing on what we are building versus what others might be building around us. Let me see. Will future renderings incorporate the proposed James and the, yeah, okay, so I answered that. Will there be a traffic light? Answered that. What bus line is anticipated to run on this span? Right now, the city transportation department is leading an effort amongst the neighborhoods and the Seaport leadership group, the whole area, to make a determination as to what bus lines and what shuttle buses. So that's a evolving operational thing. Us bridge builders, all we are doing is building a bridge that is going to be strong enough to carry that bus, whichever the bus is. Okay. Have you modeled the impacts of the new bus traffic on Atlantic? The bus traffic. Okay, so the question is, have we modeled the impact of the new bus traffic on Atlantic Avenue, particularly northbound, i.e. going towards the, come on, PJ, North Station. So we didn't model the impacts, but what we are assuming is right now there's fair amount of traffic that is going over Moakley Bridge. These are vehicular cars, obviously. Passenger vehicles that are going over the bridge that are heading towards the North Station or into those areas, which we hope will transfer to the buses. So there will, at least that's what the modeling is showing, that there will be fewer cars that are going to be making a right turn from the Moakley to head northbound. And those traffic will, the humans in those cars will go to the buses. So in a nutshell, the thinking is that the few buses that are going to go over this bridge is not going to stress the northbound traffic. Okay, don't you expect Hook to go to be replaced? Again, they're asking if I know whether the Hooks is going to get replaced. No, I don't fly in those circles of influence to be answered. That's a good question for the city's planning agency, the Boston Planning Agency, PPDA, to give you an answer on that. Will the width of the bridge be wider than the current width? Okay, so the question is this bridge going to be fatter than the bridge which we are having today. The current bridge is actually 80 feet, 80 feet wide, even though at both ends, the roads that are feeding in is only 40 feet. That is before all this development took place. But to answer your question, the bridge that is being proposed is narrower at its fattest point, which is the middle of the bridge, is narrower than our 80 feet. Okay. It's wider. Next one, I mentioned this, but there appears to be a missed opportunity to, okay. Issue is a missed opportunity to create a ferry dock on the harbor side. Wharf is, so this is a whole conversation about populating this whole area with more ferry docks. Again, there's a wider conversation as to whether ferry docks, what's a good location for those. Right now, there's a water shuttle right outside the courthouse. I think that might, right outside the port. So where the water taxis, you can actually go and pick the water taxis. So that's again a moving conversation that is being managed by the Boston Transportation Department and our planning agency. Trying to just, how is transit defined? Transit is, I believe, defined as MBTA buses and the various shuttle buses. There seems to be some shuttle buses that are sponsored or managed by the business community that is there. This is not Uber with 2 people or a taxi with 3 people. Okay, these are serious shuttle buses. Has there been any traffic analysis to show the impact of transit? Yes, I think I answered that. The promenade being the lower portion. Yes, the promenade is that little gathering pavilion space, or what we call the people experience space. Okay. Does this mean there will be a dedicated bus lane on Atlantic Avenue? Otherwise, how do vehicles traveling via the bridge avoid the daily gridlock? Yeah. So the question is, so when these buses go over this bridge, are they going to have a dedicated bus lane on Atlantic Avenue? The issue of dedicated bus lanes is being discussed in a holistic way. There are discussions on how bus lanes are supposed to be on Congress Street. And I think those conversations might be expanding to Atlantic Avenue. Again, those conversations are managed by the good people that are there in the Boston Transportation Department, who is our sister agency. Next question is, does this mean there will be, okay, there seems to be a missed opportunity to put a pedestrian walkway over Seaport Boulevard. This would elevate traffic on pedestrian walkway over Seaport Boulevard. Was this considered? Okay, so I'm not sure about what this person is saying. That question was from Matt Rubens. Matt, hopefully I can connect with you later to get a little bit more information, or hopefully we can have a voice conversation on that one, Matt. And let me see, is this project fully funded? Yes, at least we got, I think the mayor has allocated what we think is a target price tag for this. So hopefully the prices don't go crazy because of this virus situation. Will the bikes be on the pedestrian side or the bus side of the bridge? Right now, we are hoping to have the bicycles on the bus side because we are looking at it from protecting the most vulnerable, which are pedestrians, and for them to be on the harbor side and for them to relax and chill without getting clipped by either a very fast cycling pedestrian, cyclist. Okay, so anything that moves will be moving at the speed of a bicycle. That includes the buses. Okay, will emergency traffic be two-way? No, right now. Okay, slow down, PJ. Definition of emergency traffic. Right now, what is envisioned is that your average emergency, the emergency vehicle will go from the courthouse side towards Atlantic Avenue. So that is one emergency. But there's a variety of emergencies which we never want to think about, where something really, really, really terrible has happened because of all that goes on at the Moakley Courthouse. and if there's some really a cluster bad, I can't even say that. If we have a really a true emergency, I think the public safety officials will decide which way that it goes. Okay. What happens to the Coast Guard parking area? The Coast Guard parking area, that's where the Coast Guard has, I should say, take liberties, because we did allow the Coast Guard to park some of their command vehicles on that bit of roadway. They've known over the last 20 years, at least for the last 20 years, 22 years I've been here, they've known that one day when we get around to building this bridge, they will have to find other places to go. So they know that. What else? Let's see. Is the hook development at the harbor garage doesn't go forward? Atlantic and during the New Russia will be severely impacted, and the shuttle buses will be impacted. That is why full traffic study must be created. But will that be done? The question is, when the harbor garage project goes up and hooks development, what will happen with those shuttle buses? I think it's an ongoing conversation. This project needs to be built today before this bridge falls into the water. The capacity will be there on the bridge for those transit buses. If for some reason, and this is where I know Chief Osgood had to peel away for another meeting, operationally, this bridge can be, it can function in any way. There are some discussions that on weekends, can it be just a gathering place for people? It can. So the operational side of this bridge is something that is a dynamic situation. Just because buses are, just because the bridge can carry a bus doesn't translate it to anything other than it's, okay. Let me see, okay, starting must be just a comment, but all the car-free messaging prompted by the local outlets over the past year feel a bit misleading. More transparent communications about the bridge vehicle lane will be, okay. So the issue is, there's a brilliant comment here. I'll read the comment because I think it cuts to the chase very clearly. One of the shortcomings of the video which we are showing here is the lack of any definition as to whether there are cars or where can cars be. So the video which we will show on May 6th will display that ambiguity completely, where the bus lane is clearly marked as a big, like exclusive bus lanes have a red color marking. It will show those markings, so that way it will be very clear that it's a pedestrian place, a bicycle space, and a bus space. That's it.
And the next question from Joanne, I'm sure you'll address, but whether it's by paving or something else, I think everybody would agree that eventually there has to be a very clear definition as to what is for vehicles and what is for people, and so that people don't stray into the wrong area. So
exactly, Mark. That's a brilliant. I mean, that's a spot on observation. That's why we created these two ribbons, so that if anything that is, heavier than a bicycle will be on the Mowgli side, or what I call the channel side, the 4-point channel side, and the ribbon that is on the harbor side, that needs to be for the enjoyment and the relaxation and the safe passage of pedestrians who may just want to, sit on, just, observe a sunrise or what, again, yeah, sunrise from this side.
Right.
Okay. So I think I have covered everyone's chat questions. So Mark, I will turn it over to you to see whether there are other ways where someone may want to give an additional question.
Great. Thank you very much, all of you, for that. And it's really, really great for us to be able to see what you're planning, and we look forward to being a part of the ongoing process going forward. Before we jump off, I'm going to take the screen back from you, if I may.
Please. Okay.
And I would just like to say a word. Unfortunately, Suzanne seems not to have the kind of connectivity that we would have liked and that we wanted her to have, but we need to tell all of our friends on the Wharf District and everyone else in the city that we lost a dear friend, Lee Kozol, this last week to the coronavirus. Lee was a very wonderful member of our community, a strong advocate for the things that we all believed in so many ways over so many years. He represented the Harbor Tower as well. He represented the Wharf District, and he was a friend to all of us. And Suzanne shared this photograph from the, I think the Harbor Towers board that she was on at the time with Lee and a number of other people. But we all want to say a sad farewell to Lee, who lost his battle this last week. We'll keep him in our hearts and minds. And I would like to thank you all for participating in our first Wharf District Council Zoom meeting. We look forward to participating in the design of the bridge going forward. And thank you all very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Suzanne, for having us. And again, final reminder, May 6th, next week, Wednesday, in the evening, after you had your supper or while you are having supper, please join us.
Great.
Please join us.
We'll share that link when we get it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.